now take you to the broadcast of It's Time with Reverend Nathaniel W. Martin. Here's Reverend Martin.
Thank you, Dr. Blackwell. Let me say, Hotep, Abaragani, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, but certainly never good night and never ever goodbye. My name is the Reverend Nathaniel Wayne Martin. I'm the pastor of the New Life Institutional Baptist Church right here in the city of Los Angeles. We're located at 8916 South Main. And we welcome you to any and all of our church services. We have church services tonight, which is evangelistic night, and where people are able to exercise their gifts within reason. And you're invited to come and worship and share what the Lord has gifted you with. And we also have services on Sundays beginning 10 a.m. with Sunday school, and of course after that we have morning worship, and we never shut down for the pandemic, so we're still going strong. How about you? All right, and we hope that God is blessing you. We're sharing our worship experience with our sister church, the Shiloh Missionary Christian Church, which was nice enough to invite us in and make room for us. And it's an experiment, but it is one that can succeed as long as you keep the devil out and you make the folks behave. And so we are trusting in God for this little delicate experiment. We hope we won't wind up like the New Testament church, where some of the members were not or felt like they were being neglected in the daily administration. But as we say, we keep prayers going up, and we try to keep God in charge and follow his leading, and we trust that you will pray for us as we go forward. My good friend, the Reverend Dr. Della F. Holiness, is the pastor of the Shiloh Missionary Christian Church. And you know, they say when the Baptists and the Charismatics get together, there's always going to be a shouting in the camp. All right, this offering that you are viewing or listening to is entitled It's Time. And what is it time for? Why, it is always time for social justice, for us to move on up to the next level. And I'm grateful to report that there is a reparations committee that has a 2-year window to assess and evaluate here in the state of California the connections and the effects of slavery. California came in as a free state in 1850, of course, but California, of course, has a dark side, and I don't mean the black folks. I mean, they just, the people, you had some that wanted to go with the Confederacy, for instance. Down here where we're broadcasting from, this would be Southern California. Up on the north, going up all the way to the border to Frisco, and we call that the Northern California. But here down south, once you pass, once you pass Bakersfield, everything else going south wanted to go with the Confederacy. That's why you had Northern California and Southern California, and anyway, the committee to study reparations and to make a report to Governor Gavin Newsom in 2 years is now staffed, and they've been holding hearings, they've been holding meetings, and the one thing that it appears that they are struggling with is whom and in what form the reparations should be granted. And nobody likes to give a black person money, but you're going to have to give black people money, because that's where your liberation and your empowerment and your freedom, it comes from. So you can have political power, but if you have political power but you don't have economic power, then you really don't have political power. You have to get the economic piece in position, and then further the political ideology. And so there's going to have to be a reckoning with the fact of the need to write some checks. You ain't got to write all the checks at once, but you're still going to have to write some checks. Now, the descendants of slavery are going to be hard to locate because of the gap and the ever-widening gap between 1865 and 2022. And like we said, this is going to be 2024 before the California Commission, Reparations Commission, makes this report to the Governor Newsom. All right. Now, people are dying. Some people are wards of the state. You got orphans, and some people are in foster homes. And so not as many people as one would think are going to be able to trace their genealogy or their lineage on back into the slaveocracy. Realistically, even though there were good records, not perfect, but good records kept, the problem is that the 1870 census was the first census following the end of the Civil War, where the formerly enslaved were actually counted in the census. Not that they hadn't been counted, because they had already been always been counted as 3/5 of a person for the purposes of representation under the first Constitution. An enslaved person was not viewed as a whole person, but only 3/5 of a person. I don't know what the other 1/5 was, but we were not viewed as a whole person. And of course, this was an accession to the northern states, because slavery began to be shifted to the south, so there were numerically, the population was numerically greater in the south than it was in the north, and a lot of that was because of what? Slave labor, slaveocracy. And so quite naturally, in order to have some kind of equality in the Congress and in the House of Representatives and later in the Senate, they said, well, we won't count the slaves as a whole person, but we will only count them as 3/5 of a person, which means that you have one white man, then you have 3 slaves, and the other two slaves can be counted. And so it went. How they did that, I don't know. Why would they accept that? Because of the profit, because it was profitable. And the Northerners were amenable to it, and the Southerners acquiesced to it because they saw how they were gaining and benefiting at the expense of their Northern brothers and sisters. I got into that because the importance of the census. 1870 was the first census after the Civil War, where the whole person who may have been formerly enslaved was now to be counted representatively, so that you could and so your state's congressional representatives were based upon the number of persons, male persons. Remember, they still didn't count women, and they certainly wouldn't count a formerly enslaved woman. But that was the way things were compromised, and that is why the confusion still reigns. Remember, we were never supposed to survive slavery. As a matter of fact, even after this slavery, they said we would just die out, but we didn't die out. We were like babies, kids. We didn't die, we multiplied. Old joke. But at any rate, the consensus or the census is what the Reparations Committee is going to be depending on in order to adequately get a count of who is worthy and who is qualified to receive reparation. I won't go through the names of those on the committee. Stephen Bradford is on there. Reginald Jones Sawyer is on there, and several prominent women are on there. This was a thought child of Dr. Shirley Weber, who is unfortunately now been elevated to the Secretary of State. But at that time, she was a California senator or representative, and was doing a terrific job. You can see she was very progressive-minded. And so this Reparations Committee, first of its kind in the nation, is doing this job, and they're hoping that it will serve as a template for the other 49 states to begin their own. Since we tend to be in a period that has started, I guess, even before the pandemic, of soul searching and going back through the historical record and trying to set the historical record straight, because God knows we have been so miseducated. And when I say we, I mean everybody that has gone through the public school system has been undereducated and miseducated, even going back into antiquity. Some people think civilization started with the Greeks or with the Romans. Why? Because the Romans or the Greeks were what? The standard bearers, conquering nation. But there was a time when the Greeks did not exist, and there was a time when the Romans did not exist. But Africa existed, and China existed, and England did not exist, and Athens did not exist, and Paris did not exist. But Songhay and Mali and Timbuktu, and going on back into the beginning of recorded time, why we were the people who started civilization. And it is rather the reverse to say that the Greeks brought civilization, because they brought war, they brought famine, they brought pestilence, they brought death into the picture. You take that Ukrainian war right now over there. While those people this is not the first time those people have been subjected to attack. And as a matter of fact, you go back and research history, you find that those same Ukrainians were allowed to starve by their own, what I mean by their own, it wasn't my color, it was their color. Russian and all of those Caucasoids over there, they were starving those people. They had a scorched earth policy. Go search the historical record and learn something. This ain't the first time that they tried to conquer a nation or Ukraine, whether it was called Ukraine or not. Those regions are warlike. Why did they have such a uprising between the Serbs and the Croats? Why, those people have been fighting all their life. That's all they know is war. And you make a mistake when you say they are civilized. They're not civilized. That's where the uncivilization comes from. That's where the savagery enters the picture. That's where the cold-heartedness prevails. They don't care nothing about human life. Once they want something, well, they will scheme and they will get it, if possible, and by hook or by crook, by violence or by subtlety. They'll cut your throat. So we don't have to examine and revise the history books, and it's going to have to be a more truthful portrayal of what history really recorded, and not just this whitewash version. I'm sure some of you remember the Croatian War, the Serbs and the Croats, how they were fighting each other, and it came about almost at the same time that the Hutus and the Rwandan genocide was occurring, of course, and so the focus was on the Hutus and the Tutsis, but the Croats and the Serbs were equally, how shall we say it, vicious and inhumane and warlike and war criminals. And those areas of the world have always had aggressors in that European theater, however you call it. They've always attacked each other. Yes. And they're not going to stop. And they got NATO and they got the Warsaw Pact. Yes, they got the United Nations. And how has that been working? And so those things are facts of life. They are reality. And I think we should stop this doctrine of white superiority. What white superiority? White folks kill white folks just like black folks kill black folks. Only thing about white folks is that they will sure kill black folks, but they will also kill their own, and will kill them in a minute, and think nothing of it. Look at how Germany invaded Poland during the war. You know, look how Germany invaded Russia. I mean, the only thing was they did not count on that harsh Russian winter. But Germany was dead set on destroying Russia. And the reason why the United States was victorious is because the Russians had to fight 24 German armies, and we only had to fight one. And so we owe a great debt, which I don't want to get off the subject because I started out talking about reparation. But when you start going back into the depths of the history of the world history and the history of the United States of America, then you need to do some reimagining, and that means you need to do some go back and relook at the historical record. Also, I probably don't have but 10 more minutes, but I wanted you to look at the fact that there were Nigerian students from African countries studying in Ukrainian universities. Who knew? But look how harshly they were treated because the news media or the PR people wanted to see only white faces coming across that border or giving an interview with the reportage. And consequently, the black people were being denied. I said denied. They were denied. They wouldn't allow them to get on the train. They would allow, if they were able to get to the Polish border, they were not allowed to cross. They were told to go cross at another gate. And the stories coming out of Ukraine by these African students is similar to the stories you would hear coming out of Alabama or Mississippi. And so our people are mistreated in every place and in every country. And remember, Ukraine is being attacked by an invading Russian army. But yet they're still practicing racism. All right. I won't need to say nothing else about that. But you need to look at the record and keep the record straight, keep the record right, and see who's a saint and who's a sinner, who's a hero and who's a villain. You might be surprised. You may have to reevaluate some of your preconceptions or precognitions or preconditions, presumptions. All right, now let me at least have the opportunity to recite our reparation scripture, which is from Deuteronomy chapter 15, picking up at verse 12, the reading, which says, "And if thy brother, a Hebrew man or a Hebrew woman, be sold unto thee and serve thee 6 years, then in the 7th year thou shalt let him or her go out free from thee. And when thou sendest them out free from thee, thou shalt not let them go away empty, but thou shalt furnish them liberally out of thy flock and out of thy floor and out of thy winepress of that which the Lord thy God hath blessed thee. Thou shalt give, not lend, not lease, not let them borrow, give unto them." And so God is equitable, and he believes in fairness, and he's going to, since he was blessing you through the labor, free labor of this person, then when you were obligated to set these people free or let them go free from thee, you were not to just slam the door like the Southerners in the face of the formerly enslaved and say, "Root hog or die poor." No, you were to supply them adequately so that their needs along the journey were met and that they could survive after they could not reside at your premises or at your residence or on your field or on your farm or on your plantation anymore. 5 minutes. And so this is the template, this is the standard that we attend to attack for reparation. And as I said, reparations for a lot of us is going to be financial. We played the education game. We've got the degrees. We've got the AAs. We've got the BAs. We've got the masters, and we've even got the PhDs and the JDDDs and the DDDDs. But we are still last hired and first fired. We are still underpaid, under-resourced. The average black family has less than half the wealth of the average white family. If a white family has $10,000, the black family may have $100. As a matter of fact, the average white family has $738,000, whereas the black family may only have $1,800 that they can put their hands on in an emergency. And believe me, emergencies will come. You can say it's going to be la-di-da and kumbaya all your life. It ain't going to be that. It's going to be some rough places. I'm 75 years old, and I can tell you, you can't look at life through rose-colored glasses, because it's going to be some dark days. It ain't going to be sunshine all the way through. And if you got a 30-year mortgage and then you lose your job, what's going to happen to that 30-year mortgage? You got to either find another job or start paying the note out of your savings, if you have some savings. And suppose if, addition to the note, that you have a medical emergency, long-term care. Why, how much does it cost to put a relative in the rest home? Why, it can cost $10,000 a year. Put times 10, can you afford that? And so all of these things cut into a black person's wealth, whatever resources they may have. Yes, they may be young. Yes, they may have a good job, making a good salary, but they better not get sick and miss some days at work, because at these prices and with this war going on, I wasn't here last Friday. I went to a friend of mine's funeral, Brother Kenny Burrell, who had sung with our singing group, and he passed away. And I went with 4 of my friends. When we left that last Wednesday going to Dallas, Texas, well, gas was reasonable. But when we went into Arizona, we paid a low price, because it's $1 cheaper once you get out of California. And so we were might have spent $469 going out. When we got into Texas, quite nicely, it was $321 and $346. And on into Dallas. However, by that Saturday or that Friday night, when we began to come back from Dallas, tried to come back into California, the gas prices exponentially went up. And when we got into California, it was $5.19. And now it's up to $6. Well, all of those things impact your resources. You can't keep up that gas prices. And so if you got to put somebody in the rest home, well, that's a great bite out of your income or out of your savings. And so as I wrap up, good news, the reparations committee, and you got to keep it up. And to my brothers and my sisters that are working, remember, you got to get the most for your labor, because once you put your labor out there, you cannot get it back. And I say again, and I keep on saying, as I've always said, that if hard work was all it took to make it, every former slave coming out of slavery would have been a millionaire. And if you're working for somebody and they don't want to pay you, take my advice. Don't work for them. Thank you, Doc.
my birthday.